Yeah, there's absolutely a class element to this. It's not only First Nations families, it's also parents who are poor, single mothers. Ironically, families and mothers who are experiencing family violence are also disproportionately engaged in child protection services. And even though the mother might be very strong and capable, the situation triggers interventions. So there are many intersections of disadvantage that are, I guess, within the risk factors that child protection identifies. But I think with First Nations families, there's also this, I guess, different way of parenting that doesn't sit well with child protection. They have expectations around having one home, one bed, one set of parents. And when the child, for example, is also being cared by big sisters or aunties or grandmothers, maybe even, among a range of homes, that adds to what risk factors child protection identifies. So I think that goes some way in explaining why they're so overrepresented in this system. And as much as we can say that the laws aren't explicitly discriminatory, we really have to ask the question, if they're being applied fairly, why are Aboriginal children being so disproportionately targeted, and also why are they given so few rights to I guess put their case forward. So we know that they don't get quality legal representation. They don't get to see all the evidence against them until the 11th hour. It's not a level playing field, and it's really hard for disempowered families to come forward, and defeat an archive of evidence that child protection present to them with the very few resources they have.
That would seem, once again, relating back to, there's no doubt that some of this is about race. There's no denying that in certain maybe states and jurisdictions, and there are cultures, or there are certainly individuals that this plays out. But so a lot of the things you're talking about there seem to me to strike of generational poverty. Are Aboriginal people in these remote communities, particularly where they're overrepresented with child protection removals, are they probably at the lowest level of generational poverty and the longest? Is that possibly why we're seeing it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it brings it back full circle to some extent, where we started with practices of slavery and the non-payment of wages. Obviously in the first instance, they were dispossessed of their livelihood, their land. So everything that they depended on to survive was taken from them. And then they were pushed into jobs where they weren't paid any money often. And this went on for decades and decades. So we take everything from them, and they're now forced to live in houses, like in remote communities in the Northern Territory. Some of these homes have 16 or 18 people in them. And we put salt in the wound by saying, well, you don't have the resources to look after your children. Yes. It just seems like the obvious thing to do if they feel that everyone needs a home to look after children is to provide them with a home, because they absolutely added to the profits of this nation through their work and to where this nation is today. It seems like the least we can do is to provide them the, infrastructure they need to bring up their children, as well as all the education and healthcare that also doesn't exist in these communities, rather than take their children. But aside from that, I legitimately feel that it's not only a practice of, targeting poor families. I also feel that, and I do have worked with grandmothers against removal in the past, and I'm currently working with